You know when you get a new puppy and you think to yourself, wow, this is the best decision I've ever made in my life. It's so pure and honest, and frankly, I would do anything for this dog. Then a couple years later, it grows into an annoying, attention-hungry animal that always poops in the house and smells like a sweaty dance floor. Chances are you have a pit bull, and not the cool one that people avoid on the sidewalk, or it looks like it's weightlifted other pit bulls its whole life. No, you have the pit bull that you're constantly buying sunglasses for and smells like a nightclub. Let's dive into a completely different side of Pitbull you probably didn't know existed. The Pitbull before he was Mr. Worldwide with a combined 10 platinum certifications on his albums and a domestic and international combined 241 platinums in total throughout his singles and guest appearances. What if I told you he used to rap on the streets of Miami and used to be more of a gangster style rapper? With worldwide success and a knack for the most annoying fucking catchy songs on the radio, there has to be more to him, right? So it's time to answer the question, who was Pitbull? Somewhere around 2010-ish is when he sold out. Rebranded himself as a pop artist. So we're going to cover up until this point in his career, because after that turning point, there's no need for a video. We all know who the Pitbull is today. Armando Christian Perez was born on January 15th of 1981 in Miami, Florida, to Cuban immigrant parents. His parents were shipped to the States in the post-revolutionary exodus of Cuban children from the island in what would be known as the Peter Pan program. As a child, he went from reciting Jose Marti in Spanish to learning English through watching Sesame Street and listening to Snoop Dogg and Nas. His father made a very quick fortune selling cocaine in the 80s, but unfortunately lost it just as quickly. When he was a teenager, he briefly lived with foster parents in Roswell, Georgia, when his mother kicked him out of the house for dealing drugs while also dealing with her own substance abuse. When he got kicked out, that's when he went from just selling weed to something a little harder, selling cocaine. And that quick little recap is going to do it for his earlier years before music, because the music I think is the most interesting part of it, aside from being shipped to the US, his parents at least. So let's get into the music. Fast forward to 2001, Pitbull got his first record deal when he signed to Uncle Luke's record company, Luke Records. Through this, Pitbull was introduced to Robert Fernandez, who worked for a management company that specialized in developing artists, and they started working together to develop more of a radio-friendly sound. It was actually Robert Fernandez who told Pitbull to stop rapping as much, get to the hook faster, and make it catchier. He was taught how to dumb it down. That worked perfectly for Pitbull because he always was fascinated by the Miami-based genre of pop music. Now we're in 2004. He has been grinding the last couple years, writing music, doing what he was doing, but now he has a song called Culo that he is pushing to promote to get airtime. Around this time, he was quoted saying, "Catchy, stupid radio stuff is the stupid shit that sells," and "I'm selling me to the world. I'm not selling gimmicks." Two things that absolutely foreshadow his upcoming career, but this is what he loved. At a time where he could use a mentor, he looked to nobody else but the master of the club scene himself, Little John. Little John heard Pitbull's song Culo in a Miami nightclub, since that's where Pitbull would spend most of his time talking up the ladies, getting cool with the DJs, and having burnt CDs ready to hand out to try and get his stuff in rotation. Through sheer motivation alone, he got Culo to peak at number 32 on Billboard Hot 100 and number 11 on the Hot Rap Tracks chart. Not bad for a kid handing out CDs in a club. 2004 was great for Pitbull. He joined the Anger Management Tour, which was founded by Eminem, Papa Roach, and Limp Bizkit. Now, if that's not an odd collection of people, then I don't know what would be. That tour was headlined by Eminem and 50 Cent. That year also gave Pitbull the opportunity to appear on tracks with Pretty Ricky, Twista, and Ying Yang Twins. And by the way, if you guys don't know who those artists are that I just mentioned, you were probably born in the 2000s. 2004 wasn't over yet. It was the year that he released his debut album titled Miami. And when I personally was growing up, I used to have this CD and I loved it. Most of my plays came from the intro track, 305 Anthem. I am very happy to talk about this song because I've loved it for a long time, and it's one of the hardest songs I've heard, especially from the early 2000s. I still play this song to this day, and I love when people ask who it is because it sounds nothing like Pitbull today. It's the most opposite it could be to what we know today. It's raw and it's aggressive. This album is executive produced by Little John and even has early production credits from none other than The song Hustler's Mentality paints a picture of a drug dealer and the guilt associated with it. In the chorus, he says, "The longer you hustle, the deeper the addiction. It's so good, man. There's a couple of songs on here that in retrospect, I could see how he got to where he is now, but it doesn't take away from how good he used to be. This album includes the single Culo, which we just previously talked about, which is still so popular to this day. Now it's 2005, and Pitbull and Diddy just co-founded Bad Boy Latino, a subsidiary to Diddy's Bad Boy Records, which focuses on Latin hip-hop, Latin soul, and more of the tropical style music. Not only did Pitbull co-found it, he's also head of A&R for the company. Pretty light year for Mr. 305. Now we're in 2006. Pitbull appeared in the sitcom South Beach, executive produced by Jennifer Lopez. During that year, he also performed on 3 tracks from the album Listen, the album. Clever title, right? Well, I hope you're sitting down because this album was dropped by Terror Squad member and radio personality DJ Khaled. And I do want to highlight a song on this album. Yes, I'm promoting a DJ Khaled song. Bear with me. It's a song called Holla At Me, and it has Lil Wayne, Paul Wall, Fat Joe, Pitbull, and Rick Ross. It's a 10 out of 10 collaborative lineup, and keep in mind, this is 2005. Everyone was in their classic era, respectfully. It's a time capsule, man. He released his second studio album this year as well, El Mariel, which peaked at number 2 on the rap charts. This album not only has the infectious track The Anthem, but it has features from Lloyd, Trick Daddy, Trina, Twista, Jim Jones, Frankie J, and Don Omar. It was studded for 2006 like an old pair of rock revivals, and I hope somebody knows what I'm referencing before I get wheeled back into the senior home. Now, we're in 2007. He's just dropped his 3rd studio album, The Boat Lift. Before the release of this album, he stated that it was going to have more of a gangsta rap edge to it, and I encourage everybody to give it a spin and be a judge of that yourself. He was also on Punk'd this year and debuted his reality comedy show, La Esquina, which ran through 2009. This is now the time where we enter the last moments of the sun setting, the last little bit of light until Pitbull lost all sense of creativity and originality. But don't worry, there are still some noticeable things in 2009 I want to bring up, because 2008 wasn't much of a crazy year for Pitbull, aside from his variety show we just mentioned. But if you thought his trajectory so far was crazy, 2009 is a rocket ship. 2009 was an explosive year, and no pun intended to the rocket ship and the explosion, but dude, like, he signed with Polo Grounds Music through Sony Music and founded his own label, 305 Inc. Pitbull was featured on David Rush's debut single, Shooting Star, along with Kevin Rudolph and LMFAO. Out of all of Pitbull's songs, this has to be the cringiest verse he's ever written, and probably one of the cringiest I've ever heard. You can tell he wrote it very quickly just to get it on the song and get it over with. You know when he's focused, and you can feel the craftsmanship even on those radio songs that he makes, but here lies the most soulless while trying to be endearing thing I've ever heard. 2009 also brought him, Jimmy Buffett, and T-Pain together to create a new fight song for the Miami Dolphins. As if working on a song for your hometown team wasn't enough, the same year he was also given the key to the city of Miami. And not only that, he also had 3 songs on the soundtrack to Fast and the Furious, with Blanco, Crazy, and Bad Girls. My wife is also a crazy Blanco bad girl, so this album really speaks to me in a way. He was also in good company on this album, with Tego Calderon being on there and Don Omar being on there with Virtual Diva, which is an absolute fucking banger. This year also brought us the release of his 4th studio album, Revolution. It charted better than anything before it, and even better than the next album he'd released in 2010. It was also his first top 10 debuting album. It was fueled by 4 singles: Crazy, which peaked at number 30, Shut It Down featuring Akon that peaked at 42, Hotel Room Service that peaked at number 8, and I Know You Want Me, which peaked at number 2. These 4 songs combined with domestic and international sales totals 19 platinum certifications. Before this time, he didn't amass any record certifications at all, so this was an unbelievable turnout, but it makes sense with how catchy and dancey that entire album is. And this is where we start to turn the corner. This huge virality is when Pitbull starts to turn to the Pitbull we know today. And to be honest, who can blame him? I mean, I can't sit here and say he lost sight of his roots, considering how he's always loved this type of music, but he did lose his authenticity and only chasing what he knows is going to be a hit. He has become a mainstream cash pig, and everything after this point is history. However, there is one thing I do want to bring up. Buckle the fuck up for this one, because in 2013, Pitbull released a diss track towards Lil Wayne, all because of Wayne's rant about the Miami Heat. Wayne was on stage with Drake and Birdman and said that the Heat convinced the NBA to ban him from all events, and that's why he wasn't at the All-Star Weekend that year like he was supposed to be. Turns out the NBA didn't ban Wayne and everything was a misunderstanding. But before anybody knew that, including Wayne was on stage chanting,
"When I say you say NBA. When I say you say Miami Heat. Let's go. Whoa."
He also called out 3 players of the team specifically, also stating that he fucked Chris Bosh's wife. It was nuts. Assuming it was true at the time like we all thought, I would have Lil Wayne's back 100%. If the NBA banned me from all events, yeah, it's fuck you too. The video I saw that provides the footage was uploaded to YouTube on February 18th, 2013. Pitbull's diss track was uploaded February 25th, titled "Welcome to Dade County." It's fucking awful dog shit. So in 1 week after the footage of the rant was public, he puts on his cape, tries to defend his city saying it's his city whatever, and writes the worst diss track I've ever heard. Rebecca Black wrote a song about a day of the week, and even that was a harder diss track. I encourage you to go back in time and listen to his old stuff. It's really, really good. It's definitely a product of its time. Something about his Latin fusion with the Spanish to English rapping on the harder songs with the harder beats really is just, it's perfect. His sound was so different and unique, and really to this day it still kind of is. It's sad to see this type of talent stray so far away from where it came from, but he can't hear you because he's too busy not paying his property bills. So if there's anybody that you want me to talk about in the future, just let me know in the comments. This is a passion project, so anything that you might be interested in or want to know a little bit more about, I'd be more than happy to dig into it. So thanks for watching the video, and I'll see you next time.